Good morning, my darlings. It is 5 o'clock in the morning. Been up a while, but I did go to bed very early yesterday. I think I went to bed maybe around 8 o'clock yesterday, so it's enough. It's enough sleeping. Okay, but yes, I woke up and I was thinking about once again King Charles and Camilla's Berlin state visit. And, what was I thinking? Specifically, I keep wondering why did they choose Berlin of all places or Germany of all places? Because, you know, Germany is a reformed state, obviously, but who can forget its record on human rights, for example? I think everybody in every country and should have a right to rehabilitate and move on from the past. But it's just very interesting in terms of just the optics that of all the countries in the world that they could possibly have chosen as their first state visit, they chose Germany and yes, France, but Germany and France and in particular Germany. I mean, it's just kind of like, it just, it makes me go kind of, what are they saying with this? I mean, there's some kind of speech here. I understand he talked about Brexit, but I mean, as the monarch, he's not a political figure, as I have said before. And he spoke just the other day at Commonwealth Day of the billions of people who are part of the Commonwealth. Why didn't he go to one of these Commonwealth countries? It is true that, um, the Commonwealth countries have not been so welcoming lately. For example, with Kate and William, when they went to the Caribbean and how there were all of these protests. Um, no, wait a minute. There were all these protests, and there were all these protests. Where are the protests? Um, and all these disastrous pictures. I mean, I woke up thinking about this and I thought to myself, wait a second, there's a very, very big difference in the photos from visits to the Caribbean and Commonwealth countries and with photos to Germany and those types of countries. And it it's the first time I'm really making the connection. I'm embarrassed to say, like, I've seen these pictures before, and even with Queen Elizabeth and her husband. I mean, I've been a child who has, waited with bated breath for members of the royal family to visit my island of birth. So I've been a part of the experience, but I never really, really thought about it until this morning. I woke up. I said, wait a second. There's a very big difference in the kinds of photo ops that you see when the royal family visits Commonwealth countries and when they visit countries they view as their equals. And, you know, it's one thing to say, well, why didn't Charles and Camilla visit a Commonwealth country as one of their first state visits? Why Germany, of all places, which has such a terrible human rights history, record on human rights history? I mean, I understand the royal family is German, the House of Windsor, Queen Elizabeth, they come from German seed. I understand that. And so there is an affinity, there's proximity, there's shared culture, shared ideas. But the optics just seem so completely, to me, strange for a first state visit. But then I started to think about the types of photographs these people take and what's happening here, honestly. And then I thought, wait a second, no wonder they didn't go because they were afraid of protests in these countries, and it would have been bad optics, obviously, for their first visit. It's embarrassing. So instead, they went to Germany, where they were pretty much assured that they wouldn't have to deal with, France and Germany, where they wouldn't have to deal with those kinds of protests. But at the same time, unfortunately in France they had to deal with a whole different kind of protest, which I think was even more could have been a security risk for them personally in this country that is can be so anti-monarchy at the end of the day. These revolutionists in France. I mean, this is a country of revolutions, and they dethrone monarchs like you have no idea. So it's very ironic that they chose that as their first stop, and Germany was the second, and they were run out by the big protests that really had nothing to do with them, but which could have become their problem. And they went to Germany instead. But then when I look at the photographs of them in Germany, I mean, these are photographs of them in Germany, and I look at the kinds of photographs that William and Kate, for example, just last year, you know, take in these countries, I see a very, very serious problem. It's on two fronts. It is on the side of the royal family, but it is also on the side of the the people who are being treated this way by the royal family. I mean, you would never see a photograph like this coming out of Germany, ever, or any other European country. Europeans don't think of themselves in this way, but people in the Commonwealth countries, not everybody, there are exceptions, but a disturbingly high percentage of people in the Commonwealth countries, not just in the Caribbean, by the way, because this image is coming out of the South Pacific, I think. But people in these countries, disturbingly to me anyway, as an individual, have a very strange self perception. The perception they have of themselves is very, very bizarre, because in a million years, I couldn't imagine doing this, hoisting someone like up on my shoulders in this way. The Germans wouldn't do it. The French wouldn't do it. The Scandinavians wouldn't do it. The Spaniards wouldn't do it. The Italians wouldn't do it. Why are you doing it? Why do these people feel so comfortable in this role? Kate and William would never have gone to a European country and taken this kind of stance where they're driving through the cities of this country hoisted up above the people on a Land Rover in this way. I mean, this is people who fundamentally believe in their superiority over the people they are driving among. And they would never have been caught in a PR disaster like this either, because fundamentally, the people themselves don't think of themselves in this way. And so there would have been no situation where these types of photos would come out of a country like Germany or France or Scandinavia or whatever. And for me, as I woke up this morning, I thought, for the first time, I'm really putting this together in my mind. It's like, wait a second, the types of pictures that these people, this royal family, routinely takes of themselves. Well, not the pictures, but the pictures come from the actual actions, what they do in these countries, the posture they take in these countries and among these people in these countries is very, very different from what they do when they think of themselves as being among their equals. They do not dare to hoist themselves up on Land Rovers or the like in Germany and in France and in any European country, but they routinely go into the the Commonwealth countries and the countries where people are not European and position themselves in this way over and above these people, which is wrong, right? Because they are sophisticated enough people to know better, and even if these these people are willing to do this, they should never encourage this because they know better, or they ought to know better than this. But it does disturb me the willingness with which these people continue to allow themselves to be treated in this manner, as if they themselves believe themselves to be the inferiors of the royal family and people like the royal family. So I woke up just suddenly just realizing this, like, wait a second, all of these people constantly, 2023, they still have this perception of themselves in relation to people like myself, who look like myself on the exterior, right? They have this sense of superiority. They continue to encourage it, even though they know better.